Whitlow realized they all knew the moment Jules slurred. When are you finally going to stop playing house and move in with your real man? The rooftop restaurant gleamed around them. Chandeliers, white linens, whispered status. Seattle's elite wined and dined while rain hammered the city's skyline. At 42, Alec looked like a man who'd earned everything by outthinking everyone. Sharp jaw, graying temples, eyes that had seen too much. But tonight, he'd been outplayed. Sebastian's a total upgrade. No offense, Alec. The silence was deafening. Around their table, Tara's pack of social vipers, 5 women in heels sharp enough to cut glass, watched him like sharks scenting blood. They'd let him sit there smiling for months, like a prop, like a punchline. How had he gotten here? An hour earlier, Tara had wrapped a manicured hand around his arm. At 33, she dressed like royalty, moved like a queen, and schemed like a CEO in heat. Just thinking about projections, he'd lied when she caught him staring out the window. There's my brilliant husband, she'd announced to the room, flashing a practiced smile. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, but Alec had come to burn it down. He'd known about Sebastian Kroll for weeks. Nexus Dynamics CTO, married father of 2, the man who'd been lunching with Tara 3 times a week for half a year. Alec had receipts, voicemails, video. He'd seen them enter the Fairmont every Tuesday. But this? This casual mockery? This collective knowledge? Tara says you're working on some big restructuring deals. Vivian had purred earlier, swirling Bordeaux. Anything juicy? Nothing I can disclose. Client confidentiality. I love a man with secrets, Chloe had giggled, snapping a filtered photo. They'd talked about Sebastian like he was a fantasy. Gorgeous, devastating, charismatic. Poor Diana, his wife, dismissed as the human sedative. They'd pressed Tara about working closely with him, suggesting her promotion came with perks. Professional, Tara had insisted. Always professional. But the mask kept slipping. You deserve someone who gets you, Jules had continued. Who pushes you? Alec appreciates me, Tara had said weakly. Of course. Alec's stable, dependable. But sometimes a woman needs more than stability. The blow had landed harder than intended. Alec had paid off Tara's debts, built her career, rebuilt his own life around hers. And now this? Back in the present, Alec looked at Tara, really looked, and saw it all. Guilt, thrill, relief. He stood, calm, silent, controlled. All eyes turned to him. He smiled, the kind of smile that ends negotiations and starts war. You're right, Jules, he said evenly. Tara deserves an upgrade. He leaned down, kissed Tara on the cheek. Her whole body flinched. Guess what? He said, loud and clear. I paid off your student loans today. Signed the house into your name too, free and clear. Pause. Congratulations on the promotion. And the new man. Her wine glass shattered. He dropped 5 crisp hundreds on the table. Dinner's on me. Call it a divorce gift. And then he walked away, leaving behind silence, spilled wine, and a wife who'd finally been unmasked. He didn't look back. He had work to do. Tara woke up with the kind of hangover that felt like divine punishment. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of their Bellevue home, each ray hitting her retinas like a laser beam. The house was silent in a way that felt ominous. No coffee brewing, no morning news playing softly from the kitchen, no sound of Alec's morning routine. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, muscles protesting every movement. The screen showed 17 missed calls and 43 text messages, all from various members of the wine coven, all variations of the same theme. Holy crap, are you okay? And call me immediately. The memories came flooding back like ice. Water. Jules's drunken revelations, the shattering wine glass, Alec's terrifyingly calm smile as he'd walked away from their life. Alec, she called out, her voice hoarse. Baby, we need to talk. Silence. She stumbled downstairs, still wearing last night's dress, makeup smeared across her face like war paint. The kitchen was pristine, empty. No signs that anyone had been there since the cleaning lady's visit yesterday. A note sat on the marble countertop, written in Alec's precise handwriting. Gone fishing, back when the lake freezes over. The lake never froze in Seattle. Her phone rang. Sebastian's name flashed on the screen. Thank God, she breathed, answering immediately. Sebastian, last night was a disaster. Alec knows about us, and I need to see you. Can you come over? Tara. His voice was strange, distant. We need to talk. Yes, that's what I just said. Can you? No, I mean, we need to talk about ending this. Diana found out. Someone sent her photos. The world tilted sideways. Photos? What photos? Us, at the hotel, very explicit photos, Tara, professional quality. Someone's been watching us. Her blood turned to ice water. That's impossible. We were careful. Apparently not careful enough. Diana's filing for divorce. She's demanding full custody of the kids and threatening to go public if I don't resign from Nexus. Tara sank onto one of the kitchen bar stools, her legs unable to support her weight. Sebastian, you can't abandon me now. Alec knows everything. He walked out last night in front of everyone. That's your problem to solve. I have my own mess to clean up. My problem? Her voice rose to a screech. We're in this together. No, Tara, we're not. We never were. This was supposed to be discreet, temporary. You turned it into something it was never meant to be. The line went silent. She stared at the phone for a full minute, waiting for him to call back. When he didn't, she tried calling him, straight to voicemail. Panic began to set in. Real panic, the kind that made your chest tight and your hands shake. She needed to get to her laptop, needed to check her work emails, needed to start damage control. She rushed to her home office, Alec's old study that she'd taken over when he'd moved his business operations to a downtown office. Her laptop sat closed on the desk, exactly where she'd left it. She opened it and pressed the power button. The login screen appeared. She typed her password. Incorrect password. She tried again, more carefully this time. Incorrect password. And again. Account locked due to multiple failed attempts. What the hell? She muttered, grabbing her work phone. Her work email app opened, then immediately crashed. She reopened it, crashed again. Her personal phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. T, your Dropbox is completely empty. Where are the client files for the Morrison account? This isn't funny. Another text, this one from her assistant. Tara, the entire campaign folder is gone. It says your account was corrupted overnight. What should I tell the clients? Then another. The quarterly reports vanished. Did you move them? And another. Your access credentials aren't working. HR wants to see you first thing Monday. Her hands were shaking so violently she could barely hold the phone. She tried logging into her cloud storage. Password rejected. She tried her backup email. Account suspended. A final message appeared from an unknown number. You wanted a clean slate. I delivered. The management. The phone slipped from her numb fingers and clattered to the hardwood floor. She ran upstairs to their bedroom, threw open Alec's closet. Empty. Completely empty. His side of the bathroom, toiletries gone, prescription bottles gone. Even his toothbrush had vanished. Back downstairs, she noticed things she'd missed in her panicked state. The living room looked strange, too sparse. It took her several minutes to realize what was missing. Every piece of expensive electronics, every piece of art, every item of value that could be easily transported. The 65-inch OLED television. Gone. The sound system that had cost $15,000. Gone. Her grandmother's antique jewelry from the safe she ran to check. The safe was open and empty. Her laptop. Alec's desktop computer. The tablet they used for streaming. All gone. Even the good silverware had vanished from the kitchen drawers. She stood in the middle of their gutted home, wearing a wrinkled cocktail dress and smeared makeup, surrounded by the debris of her imploded life. Her phone, the one that had clattered to the floor, rang from where it lay. She scrambled to answer it. Tara Whitlow? The voice was crisp, professional. Yes? This is Naomi Skelter from Skelter & Associates. I represent your husband in the matter of your impending divorce. I'm calling to inform you that papers will be served tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You'll want to retain counsel immediately. Divorce papers? But we haven't even talked. Mrs. Whitlow, I've been working on this case for 6 weeks. Your husband has been very thorough in his preparations. I suggest you use the time between now and tomorrow morning to find yourself a very good attorney. You're going to need one. Tara stood alone in her empty house, finally understanding that the man she'd married, the stable, reliable, predictable man she'd grown so bored with, had just declared war. And she was about to discover that when Alec Whitlow went to war, he didn't just win, he obliterated. Across town, in a temporary office space he'd rented 6 weeks earlier, Alec Whitlow sat behind a mahogany desk that had once belonged to a railroad baron. The office occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in Pioneer Square, with exposed brick walls and industrial lighting that gave it the atmosphere of a war room. 3 monitors displayed multiple windows of data streams, financial records, and surveillance footage. To his left sat a stack of manila folders, each labeled with meticulous handwriting. To his right, a secure phone that had been buzzing intermittently all morning. Naomi Skelter, A woman who looked like she could fillet an opponent with her business card sat across from him reviewing documents. At 55, she'd built a reputation as Seattle's most ruthless divorce attorney. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her dark eyes missed nothing. The initial phase went better than expected, she said, closing the folder marked Phase 1 Asset Protection. Your wife spent the morning discovering the scope of our preparations. Alec didn't look up from his screens. Any attempts to contact me? 17 calls to your old number, 12 emails to your business account. She also tried reaching you through your brother in Portland. Naomi's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I assume you briefed him? David knows to forward everything to you. Alec finally swiveled his chair to face her. What about Sebastian? Kroll's having his own crisis. His wife filed for divorce 2 hours ago. She's demanding full custody and threatening to expose the affair publicly if he doesn't resign from Nexus Dynamics immediately. And the photos we sent her? Diana Kroll was very appreciative of the evidence, especially the ones taken in your own bedroom. Naomi opened another folder. The nanny cam footage was particularly damaging. Sebastian's face is clearly visible in 17 separate encounters. Alec had installed the security camera 2 years ago when they'd briefly considered hiring household help. He'd forgotten about it until the private investigator he'd hired suggested checking his own footage. The discovery that his wife had been bringing her lover into their home, into their bed, had been the final catalyst for what Naomi had dubbed Operation Banshee. What about the tech component? Alec asked. Naomi's smile widened. Your background in digital asset management proved invaluable. Every device Tara owns has been remotely accessed and wiped. Her cloud storage accounts, work emails, personal files, all corrupted beyond recovery. It had taken Alec 3 weeks to map every digital footprint his wife maintained. She'd been careless with passwords, using the same combination for multiple accounts. The spyware he'd installed on her devices had given him administrative access to her entire digital life. The beauty of modern relationships, he continued, is that people store their entire existence online. Remove their digital presence and they become ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, Naomi said, pulling out a tablet, we need to discuss the wine coven. The tablet displayed screenshots of group messages dating back 6 months. Alec had been monitoring their private chat room since discovering Tara's affair, using a spoofed number to join as a silent participant. Show me the best ones, he said. Naomi scrolled to a conversation from 3 weeks earlier. Jules_law_queen. Once he signs the deed, I'm out. Miami, baby. Tarastar_PR. He's still clueless. I call him daddy, he hands me cash. Vivian Cross_marketing. Sebastian's wife is getting suspicious. Maybe dial it back? Tarastar_PR. Diana Kroll is about as threatening as a wet tissue. If she knew how to keep her husband satisfied, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Rebecca_VC. Brutal, but accurate. Poor Alec. He's such a sweet idiot. Tarastar_PR. Sweet is right. I fake cry and he begs to pay. We can use the anxiety diagnosis against him later. Alec's jaw tightened as he read his wife's words. The anxiety diagnosis referred to a therapy session she'd attended after claiming Alec's work stress was affecting her mental health. She'd been building a case for emotional distress, setting up a narrative where she was the sufferer of his neglect. There's more, Naomi said, scrolling further. Chloe loves Miami. What if he finds out before you're ready? Tarastar_PR. He won't. Alec thinks loyalty means something. He'd never snoop through my stuff. Jules_law_queen. Men like him are easy to manipulate. They want to believe in happy endings. Tarastar_PR. Exactly. He's so desperate to be the good husband that he'll ignore every red flag until it's too late. Bethany Ward_politics. And if he doesn't, Tarastar_PR. Then we manufacture some evidence. A bruise here, a threatening voicemail there. I'll say he's been controlling and abusive. Jules can coach me on what courts want to hear. Jules_law_queen. Domestic misuse cases are slam dunks if you document properly. Judges eat that stuff up. Alec closed his eyes, feeling the familiar rage that had been building for weeks. They hadn't just planned to leave him, they'd planned to destroy him in the process. The conspiracy angle gives us significant leverage, Naomi noted. 5 women coordinating to defraud you and potentially file false misuse charges. The prosecutor's office will be very interested. Alec's secure phone rang. He checked the caller ID. Thomas Webb, private investigator. Webb, he answered. What do you have? Boss, you're going to want to see this. Sebastian's been busier than we thought. Explain. He's not just cheating with your wife. I followed him after his meeting with Diana yesterday. He went straight to the Westin and met with another woman. Young, blonde, works at Nexus in their marketing department. Alec put the call on speaker so Naomi could hear. How young? 24. Name's Ashley Chen. Been with the company 8 months. Want me to dig deeper? Do it. Full background, financial records, phone logs. If Sebastian's running a pattern, I want every detail. Already on it. But there's something else. I followed him again this morning. He met with a real estate agent in Kirkland. Looks like he's been house shopping. Naomi leaned forward. Recent activity? The agent said he put an offer in last week. Cash purchase, $2.8 million, closing scheduled for Friday. Alec and Naomi exchanged glances. Sebastian was moving fast, trying to secure assets before his divorce became public knowledge. Webb, I need you to contact Diana Kroll's attorney immediately. Sebastian's attempting to hide marital assets. If they move quickly, they can freeze the purchase. On it, boss. Anything else? Yes, send me everything you have on Ashley Chen. If Sebastian's establishing a pattern of workplace maltreatment, his employer needs to know. After Webb hung up, Naomi opened her laptop and began typing rapidly. We're escalating to phase 2, she announced. Financial pressure, professional consequences, and public exposure. Are you ready for this to get ugly? Alec looked out the warehouse windows at the Seattle skyline. Somewhere out there, his wife was probably calling every attorney in the city, trying to find someone willing to take on a case where the opposing counsel had been preparing for 6 weeks. Naomi, he said quietly, it got ugly the moment my wife decided to destroy my life for entertainment. I'm just returning the favor with interest. She closed her laptop with a satisfying snap. Then let's give her a war she'll remember. By Monday morning, Tara's world had collapsed from 3 different directions simultaneously. She sat in the sterile waiting room of Patricia Hawkins and Associates, one of Seattle's most expensive family law firms. The attorney she desperately called on Sunday had agreed to see her only after she'd promised to pay a $50,000 retainer up front, money she didn't have, since Alec had apparently frozen all their joint accounts. Her father had wired the money from his retirement fund, screaming at her over the phone about family reputation and irresponsible behavior in a way that made her feel 12 years old again. The receptionist, a woman with the emotional warmth of glacier ice, had been making her wait for 45 minutes. Every few minutes, her phone buzzed with new disasters. Sebastian wasn't returning her calls. Her assistant had left 3 voicemails about missing client files. HR wanted to see her immediately, and most disturbing of all, her wine coven group chat had been silent since Saturday night. 5 women who normally generated dozens of messages daily had suddenly gone radio quiet. Mrs. Whitlow. The receptionist's voice could have frozen champagne. Miss Hawkins will see you now. Patricia Hawkins's office was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling legal books, awards covering every wall, a desk the size of a small aircraft carrier. Hawkins herself was a formidable woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and the expression of someone perpetually disappointed in humanity. I'm Mrs. Whitlow, she began without preamble. I've reviewed the preliminary documents your husband's attorney sent over. This is complex. Complex how? Tara asked, settling into an uncomfortable leather chair. Hawkins opened a thick folder. Your husband is alleging fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, defamation, and conspiracy to file false police reports. He's provided extensive documentation to support these claims. That's ridiculous. Alec's always been dramatic when he doesn't get his way. Mrs. Whitlow, he has 6 months of recorded conversations between you and your friends discussing plans to fabricate domestic misuse allegations. He has financial records showing you've been directing marital assets to personal accounts without his knowledge. He has photographic evidence of an extramarital affair conducted in your marital home. Tara felt the blood drain from her face. He recorded me? That's illegal. Actually, Washington is a 2-party consent state, but there are exceptions for recording activities in one's own home when investigating suspected criminal behavior. More importantly, your husband didn't record you directly. He monitored a group chat you joined voluntarily, using a number he legally obtained. A group chat? Hawkins turned her laptop around, showing Tara screenshots of the wine coven messages. Her own words stared back at her. I fake cry and he begs to pay. We can use the anxiety diagnosis against him later. I don't care if Alec dies. I'll get sympathy. I'll own everything. Mrs. Whitlow, did you write these messages? Tara's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. She had written them. Every cruel, calculating word. The fraud allegations center around your systematic depletion of marital assets while concealing an extramarital relationship. The conspiracy charges involve coordinating with 5 other individuals to fabricate evidence of domestic misuse. We never actually filed any charges. Intent to commit fraud is still fraud, Mrs. Whitlow. Your husband's attorney has already forwarded this evidence to the prosecutor's office. You may be facing criminal charges in addition to the civil case. The room started spinning. What about the house? He signed it over to me. Yes, and then he invoked a revocation clause that was apparently buried in the deed transfer. Since the gift was made under fraudulent circumstances, specifically while you were engaged in an extramarital affair you had concealed from him, the transfer is void. That's not possible. I'm afraid it is. Your husband is a financial restructuring specialist, Mrs. Whitlow. He understands contract law better than most attorneys. The deed contains language that automatically reverts ownership to him if the marriage dissolves within 12 months of transfer due to your infidelity. Tara stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, Seattle looked the same as always. Gray sky, bustling traffic, people going about their lives. But her world had become unrecognizable. What about alimony? Spousal support? Given the evidence of fraud and infidelity, you'll be lucky to avoid criminal prosecution, let alone receive financial support. Her phone rang. The display showed Nexus Dynamics HR department. I need to take this, she said. Tara Whitlow, this is Linda Chen from Human Resources. We need you to come in immediately. There are some serious allegations that require immediate investigation. What kind of allegations? Misuse of company resources, inappropriate workplace relationships, and maltreatment claims. How soon can you be here? Tara looked at Patricia Hawkins, who was watching with the expression of someone observing a car crash in slow motion. I'll be there in an hour, Tara said. After hanging up, she turned back to Hawkins. They're firing me, aren't they? Mrs. Whitlow, at this point, termination would be the least of your problems. If your husband has documentation of workplace misconduct, criminal charges become much more likely. Tara's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. Management. She opened her email app. One new message. No sender name. Subject. Your husband's legacy asterisk attached. You'll find audio recordings of Sebastian Kroll threatening violence against your husband. Financial records showing misappropriation of company resources for personal relationships. Security footage from the Fairmont Olympic Hotel showing you and Mr. Kroll during work hours. Documentation of hostile work environment complaints filed by junior employees, asterisk. Your husband spent 2 months documenting every aspect of your affair and its impact on your workplace. By tomorrow morning, this information will be in the hands of Nexus Dynamics Board of Directors, the Seattle Ethics Commission, and the Washington State Bar Association. You wanted to destroy a good man for entertainment. Instead, you've destroyed yourselves. Professional regards, the management. Tara stared at the screen until the words blurred together. When she looked up, Patricia Hawkins was studying her with the clinical interest of a pathologist examining a particularly interesting corpse. Mrs. Whitlow, I need to ask you a very important question, and I need you to answer honestly. Given what we've discussed today, can you afford to pay for a protracted legal battle? I don't know. Maybe my father could, because your husband's strategy appears designed to ensure you can't afford adequate representation. He's systematically eliminated your income sources, your digital assets, and your support network. This is financial warfare. Tara sank back into the chair, feeling smaller than she had since childhood. What do you recommend? Hawkins closed the folder with finality. I recommend you consider whether this is a battle you can win, or whether you should focus on minimizing the damage. You mean give up? I mean recognize that your husband has been preparing for this confrontation far longer than you realized. And Mrs. Whitlow? Based on what I've seen today, he's very, very good at his job. As Tara left the law office, her phone rang again. This time it was Jules. Tara, we need to talk. All of us. Emergency meeting at Vivian's house. 1 hour. Jules, thank God. I've been trying to... 1 hour, Tara, and bring whatever legal advice you can afford. We're all in serious trouble. Tara finally understood that her husband hadn't just discovered her affair. He'd been playing a completely different game all along, and she just realized she'd already lost. Vivian Cross's Magnolia home normally epitomized Seattle's affluent lifestyle. Panoramic sound views, carefully curated art collection, and the kind of architectural restraint that screamed old money. Today, it felt like a bunker. The five women sat around Vivian's dining table like survivors of a natural disaster, each clutching their phones and legal documents. The atmosphere was electric with panic and recrimination. "This is a coordinated attack," Jules said, her usually perfect composure cracked like damaged porcelain. "Someone's been planning this for months." Bethany Ward looked like she'd aged 5 years overnight. Dark circles ringed her eyes, and her hands shook as she sorted through papers. "The city council received an anonymous tip about my consulting contract with Morrison Development. They're launching a full ethics investigation." "How is that connected to Tara's situation?" Chloe asked. "Because Morrison Development is owned by Jules' firm," Rebecca answered grimly. "Which means the anonymous tipster knows about our business relationships. They've been watching all of us." Vivian poured herself a third cup of coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. "My marketing firm lost 2 major clients this morning. Both cited reputation concerns after receiving anonymous emails about my involvement in coordinated maltreatment activities." Jules spread legal documents across the mahogany table. "It gets worse. I received a call from the Washington State Bar this morning. Someone filed an ethics complaint alleging I coached a client to fabricate domestic misuse allegations." "But you never actually coached Tara to do anything," Chloe protested. "No, but I discussed strategies in our group chat. The complaint includes screenshots of me explaining how to document supposed misuse for maximum legal impact." Rebecca's voice was barely above a whisper. "My venture capital firm is conducting an internal review. Someone sent them chat logs of me joking about insider trading and market manipulation." The women stared at each other across the table, the scope of their destruction finally becoming clear. "How much does he have?" Tara asked. Jules consulted her notes. "Based on what my attorney pieced together, Alec's been monitoring our group chat for at least 6 weeks. He has every message, every photo, every joke, every plan." "That's impossible," Vivian said. "The chat was private. Private to us. But if someone joins with a fake number and never posts, they're essentially invisible. The system treats them like any other member." Chloe was frantically scrolling through her phone. "I'm losing followers by the hundreds. Someone's posting screenshots of our conversations on gossip blogs. Look at this headline. Seattle influencer's toxic friend group exposed." She held up her phone, showing a blog post that featured edited highlights of their most damaging conversations. The comments section was brutal. "The public relations nightmare is just beginning," Jules continued. "Whoever's orchestrating this understands that destroying our reputations is more effective than just targeting Tara." "This is Alec," Tara said with certainty. "He's always been vindictive when he doesn't get his way." "Vindictive?" Rebecca laughed bitterly. "Tara, this isn't vindictive. This is surgical, professional. This is someone who understands exactly how to dismantle lives systematically." Bethany looked up from her documents. "My husband wants me to hire criminal defense attorneys." "Criminal, Tara. They think we could face conspiracy charges." "For what? Talking in a private chat?" "For coordinating to defraud your husband and potentially file false police reports. Intent to commit fraud is still fraud." Jules opened her laptop and pulled up legal research she'd been conducting since dawn. "Here's what we're facing. Conspiracy to commit fraud, defamation, potentially racketeering if the prosecutor decides our group chat constitutes organized criminal activity." "Racketeering?" Vivian's voice climbed an octave. "We're not the mafia." "No, but we coordinated criminal activities across state lines. Some of our business dealings involve California and Oregon clients. Federal prosecutors love RICO cases." Tara felt reality shifting around her like sand. This can't be happening. Alec's a financial consultant, not some criminal mastermind. "Alec's a financial restructuring specialist," Rebecca corrected. "Do you know what that means? He helps corporations dismantle failing businesses while protecting valuable assets. He takes apart complex organizations for a living." The implications hit like a physical blow. Alec hadn't just discovered their affair and reacted emotionally. He'd applied his professional expertise to methodically destroying their entire social and financial ecosystem. "We need to coordinate our defense," Jules said. "If we're all facing charges, we can't let them pit us against each other." "Coordinate?" Chloe laughed hysterically. "Jules, my attorney says the first one who cooperates gets immunity. Why would I go down with this ship?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The women stared at each other with new suspicion, trust evaporating like morning mist. "You wouldn't," Vivian said slowly. "Wouldn't I?" My entire career is imploding because you people convinced Tara to cheat on her husband. I never even met Sebastian. You participated in planning, Jules began. I made jokes in a group chat. I never told Tara to have an affair. Rebecca stood up abruptly. This is exactly what he wants. Turn us against each other, make us vulnerable to prosecution by destroying our unified front. There is no unified front, Bethany snapped. There's 5 women who got caught making horrible jokes about destroying someone's life. Tara's phone rang. Alex's name appeared on the screen. The room fell silent. 5 pairs of eyes stared at the device like it might explode. Answer it, Jules whispered. Put it on speaker. Tara's hand trembled as she accepted the call. Hello, Tara. Alex's voice was calm, professional. He could have been calling about dinner reservations. Alec, please. We need to talk. This has gone too far. Has it? I've been listening to you and your friends discuss my destruction for months. Now you're experiencing a small fraction of what you planned for me. We never planned to hurt you. It was just talk. Just talk. His voice hardened slightly. You planned to file false domestic misuse charges. You discussed using manufactured evidence to destroy my reputation and career. You celebrated the idea of me being financially ruined and potentially imprisoned. The women around the table exchanged guilty glances. You have a choice, Alec continued. You can continue fighting this, spend hundreds of thousands on legal fees, watch your careers implode, and potentially face criminal prosecution. Or you can accept responsibility for your actions. What do you want? Tara whispered. I want you to understand that actions have consequences, that loyalty means something, that when you destroy someone's life for entertainment, you forfeit the right to complain when they return the favor. Please, Alec, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can... Tara. His voice cut through her pleading like a blade. You told your friends you didn't care if I died, that you'd get sympathy and own everything. Do you remember saying that? Silence stretched across the line. I remember, he said quietly. I remember every word. And now you're going to learn what it feels like to lose everything you thought you owned. The others weren't involved in the affair. The others helped you plan it, encouraged it, provided legal advice on how to destroy me. They made themselves participants, Tara. They chose this. Jules leaned toward the phone. Mr. Whitlow, this is Jules Morrison. I think we can reach a reasonable settlement. Miss Morrison. Alec's voice turned arctic. You coached my wife on fabricating domestic misuse allegations. You advised her to exploit her anxiety diagnosis in court to undermine me. You encouraged her to commit fraud while secretly planning to walk away from our marriage. Those were hypothetical discussions. 6 months of hypothetical discussions about destroying my life. Tell me, Miss... Morrison, do you think the Washington State Bar will view your behavior as hypothetical? The line went quiet except for the sound of 5 women breathing in panicked rhythm. Ladies, Alex said finally, you wanted to play games with someone's life. Now you're going to discover that I'm much better at games than you are. The call ended, leaving them staring at the silent phone like it was evidence at a crime scene. Outside, Seattle's afternoon traffic hummed with the sound of people living normal lives, going to work, picking up children, planning dinner. Inside Vivian's dining room, 5 women sat in the wreckage of their own making, finally understanding that the man they'd underestimated had just declared total war. And in warfare, Alec Whitlow had never lost. 3 days later, Sebastian Kroll stood outside the conference room at Nexus Dynamics, knowing his career was about to end. Through the glass walls, he could see the company's board of directors seated around an oval table like a tribunal. HR Director Linda Chen sat at the head, a stack of documents thick enough to choke a horse spread before her. His hands were sweating as he straightened his tie. 48 hours ago, he'd been the golden boy of Seattle tech, the charismatic CTO who'd led Nexus through 3 successful product launches and doubled their market valuation. Now he was about to become a cautionary tale about mixing business with pleasure. Diana's divorce attorney had frozen his assets that morning. His wife had taken the kids to her mother's house in Portland, leaving him alone in their Bellevue mansion with nothing but his conscience and a growing sense of cosmic justice. Mr. Kroll, Linda Chen's assistant, appeared beside him. They're ready for you. The conference room felt like a morgue. 7 board members, 3 HR representatives, and the company's general counsel all studied him with the clinical interest of pathologists. No one smiled. No one spoke. The silence stretched until it became physically uncomfortable. Sebastian, said board chairman William Foster, a man who'd built his fortune in aerospace and had no patience for corporate drama. Sit down. Sebastian took the chair at the far end of the table, facing the assembled jury of his professional peers. Mr. Kroll, we're here to discuss serious allegations regarding your conduct as an officer of this company, specifically inappropriate behavior towards subordinates, misallocation of company resources, and fostering a toxic work environment. I'd like to know who made these allegations, Sebastian said, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. The complainant wishes to remain anonymous, but they've provided extensive documentation to support their claims. Chen activated a wall-mounted monitor. A video began playing, security footage from the Nexus Dynamics parking garage. Sebastian watched himself walking with Tara toward his car, his hand resting possessively on her lower back. This footage is from 6 weeks ago, Chen narrated. 16:47 hours on a Tuesday. Your calendar shows you attended a client meeting from 1500 to 1700 hours. Meetings end early sometimes. Mr. Kroll, please don't insult our intelligence. The voice belonged to board member Sarah Kim, Nexus's chief financial officer. We have hotel receipts charged to your company credit card, receipts that coincide with these early meetings. Chen clicked to the next screen. Hotel bills from the Fairmont Olympic, always on Tuesday afternoons, always charged to Sebastian's corporate account. Company policy clearly states that corporate credit cards are for business expenses only, Kim continued. Using company funds to finance an extramarital affair constitutes fraud. Sebastian felt sweat beating on his forehead. Those meetings were business-related. Tara handles public relations for several of our client accounts. Interesting theory, Chen said, clicking to another screen. This is the guest registry from the Fairmont Olympic. Notice that you consistently book the same suite. The penthouse suite, Mr. Kroll. $800 per afternoon. The numbers glowed on the screen like evidence tags at a crime scene. More interesting, Kim added, is that these charges total $47,000 over 6 months. $47,000 of company money spent on personal entertainment. Board member David Reyes leaned forward. Sebastian, we've also received reports about inappropriate workplace behavior. Multiple female employees have come forward claiming you created an uncomfortable environment through your relationship with Miss Whitlow. That's ridiculous. My relationship with Tara never affected my professional judgment. Really? Chen clicked to a new screen showing internal emails. This is correspondence between you and Miss Whitlow from last month. Would you like me to read it aloud? Sebastian scanned the email thread and felt his stomach drop. The messages were flirtatious, unprofessional, laden with innuendo that would be devastating in a courtroom. We also have security footage from your office, Chen continued. Footage that shows Miss Whitlow entering your private office after hours on multiple occasions. The video played on the monitor. Sebastian watched himself leading Tara into his office, her hand trailing down his arm in a gesture that was unmistakably intimate. Mr. Kroll, Foster said quietly, you are married. Miss Whitlow is married. You supervised her work on multiple client accounts. You used company resources to finance your affair. You created a work environment where female employees felt uncomfortable reporting inappropriate behavior because of your obvious favoritism toward Miss Whitlow. Sebastian looked around the table, seeing his reflection in 7 pairs of unforgiving eyes. I made mistakes, but nothing that rises to the level of $47,000 in fraudulent expenses rises to the level of criminal prosecution, Kim interrupted. Crossing personal boundaries with employees isn't just unethical. It exposes this company to legal action, and a toxic workplace culture is a direct breach of executive duty. Foster opened his own folder. Sebastian, the board has voted. Your employment with Nexus Dynamics is terminated immediately. Your corporate accounts are frozen pending a full audit. Our legal department will be filing a civil suit to recover misappropriated funds. Additionally, Chen added, we're required to report suspected financial crimes to law enforcement. The prosecutor's office will be receiving a full report of our findings. Sebastian stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward. This is insane. I built this company's technology platform. I'm responsible for half our current revenue. You were responsible, Foster corrected, until you decided that company resources were your personal piggy bank. Who did this? Sebastian demanded. Who sent you this information? Foster smiled for the first time during the meeting. Someone who understands that actions have consequences, Mr. Kroll. Someone who documented your behavior far more thoroughly than you realized. Chen handed him a manila envelope. Your personal effects have been packed, Security will escort you from the building. Any attempt to access company systems or contact company employees will result in additional charges. As Sebastian walked toward the door, escorted by 2 security guards, Foster called after him. Sebastian, next time you decide to destroy someone's marriage, make sure they're not smarter than you are. The elevator ride to the lobby felt like a descent into hell. Other employees stared as he passed, whispers following in his wake. By the time he reached the parking garage, Sebastian knew the story would be circulating through Seattle's tech community within hours. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. Management. The email contained a single attachment, a video file labeled Tuesday Afternoon Special. Sebastian opened it with trembling fingers. The video showed him and Tara in the Fairmont Olympic penthouse suite, clearly engaged in intimate activities. The footage was professionally edited, with timestamps showing company work hours. A message appeared at the bottom. Your wife's attorney has already received a copy. Your corporate board has already received a copy. The local news stations will receive copies if you attempt to contact Tara Whitlow again. Some games have permanent consequences. Hey, Whitlow. Sebastian stood alone in the parking garage, holding his box of personal effects, finally understanding that the stable, predictable husband he'd helped Tara mock had orchestrated the complete destruction of his life with surgical precision. His phone rang, Diana's attorney. Mr. Kroll, we need to discuss your assets, all of them. And Mr. Kroll, you might want to hire a criminal defense attorney, soon. As Sebastian drove home to his empty mansion, he realized that Alec Whitlow hadn't just won their war. He'd made it look easy. 2 weeks later, King County Superior Court felt like a gladiatorial arena. Judge Margaret Rivera, known for her no-nonsense approach to family law, presided over what had become the most anticipated divorce proceeding in Seattle's recent memory. Alex sat at the plaintiff's table beside Naomi Skelter, projecting the calm confidence of someone holding a royal flush. His dark suit was perfectly tailored, his expression serene. Behind him, the gallery was packed with reporters, attorneys, and curious observers drawn by rumors of the case's explosive evidence. Across the aisle, Tara looked like a ghost of her former self. Her designer wardrobe had been replaced by a modest black dress borrowed from her sister. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, and her hands trembled as she shuffled through documents with her attorney, Patricia Hawkins, who looked like she'd rather be defending serial criminals. Your Honor, Naomi began during opening statements, this case involves the systematic defraud of my client by his wife and her co-conspirators. We will present evidence of infidelity, financial fraud, conspiracy to file false police reports, and defamation. She gestured toward a table loaded with evidence boxes. Mr. Whitlow spent 6 months documenting his wife's affair and the conspiracy surrounding it. The evidence includes audio recordings, video surveillance, financial records, and digital communications spanning 18 months. Judge Rivera leaned forward. Miss Skelter, that's an extensive collection period. When did your client begin investigating? Your Honor, Mr. Whitlow became suspicious when hotel receipts appeared in his wife's purse 8 months ago. However, the systematic documentation began after he discovered group chat messages indicating a conspiracy to defraud him. Patricia Hawkins stood for her opening statement, looking like she was about to deliver a eulogy. Your Honor, while my client acknowledges marital difficulties, the evidence gathered by Mr. Whitlow may have been obtained illegally. We question the admissibility of recordings made without proper consent. Miss Hawkins, Judge Rivera said dryly, this is a civil proceeding, not a criminal trial. The rules of evidence are considerably more flexible. Mr. Whitlow was investigating potential fraud within his own home using his own security systems. Naomi called her first witness, Thomas Webb, the private investigator. Webb took the stand like a man accustomed to courtroom testimony. Tall, gray-haired, with the bearing of a former police detective, he commanded immediate attention. Mr. Webb, Naomi began, please describe the scope of your investigation into Mrs. Whitlow's activities. I conducted surveillance for 6 weeks, documenting Mrs. Whitlow's movements, associates, and activities. I monitored her digital communications with court-approved software and gathered financial records showing unauthorized expenditures. What did you discover? Webb consulted his notes. Mrs. Whitlow maintained a regular Tuesday afternoon schedule meeting Sebastian Kroll at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. She charged personal expenses to joint credit cards without her husband's knowledge. She participated in group communications discussing plans to defraud Mr. Whitlow. Naomi activated the courtroom's monitor system. I'm showing you Exhibit A. Can you identify this footage? The screen filled with security camera footage from the Fairmont Olympics parking garage. Tara and Sebastian walked together toward the hotel entrance, their body language unmistakably intimate. This footage is from 6 weeks of surveillance, Webb testified. It shows Mrs. Whitlow and Mr. Kroll meeting consistently every Tuesday afternoon during work hours. Patricia Hawkins objected. Your Honor, this footage proves they met, not the nature of their meetings. Sustained, Judge Rivera said. Mr. Webb, do you have evidence of the specific nature of these meetings? Webb's expression remained neutral. Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Whitlow installed a digital recording device in the hotel suite they frequented. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Rivera banged her gavel. Order, Miss Skelter. Please explain how your client gained access to a private hotel suite. Naomi smiled. Your Honor, Mr. Whitlow booked the same suite for the following Tuesday and installed a legal recording device during his own occupancy. When Mrs. Whitlow and Mr. Kroll arrived for their regular appointment, they used the suite believing it was secured by Mr. Kroll. That's entrapment, Hawkins protested. And Missy Hawkins, Judge Rivera said, your client chose to engage in extramarital activities in a hotel suite she had no legal claim to. The property was legally occupied by the plaintiff when the recording device was installed. Naomi continued her questioning. Mr. Webb, what did these recordings reveal? The recordings document 18 separate encounters between Mrs. Whitlow and Mr. Kroll over 6 weeks. The content leaves no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Did Mrs. Whitlow make any statements during these encounters relevant to her marriage? Webb checked his notes again. Mrs. Whitlow frequently disparaged her husband, discussed plans to leave him, and detailed strategies for maximizing her financial position in a divorce. Naomi played an audio clip. Tara's voice filled the courtroom. Alex so desperate to keep me happy, he'll sign anything I put in front of him. The house transfer was easier than I expected. More whispers from the gallery. Tara had gone completely pale. Mr. Webb, did you also investigate group communications involving Mrs. Whitlow? Yes. Mrs. Whitlow participated in a group chat with 5 friends where they discussed strategies for defrauding her husband and potentially filing false misuse allegations. Naomi introduced the chat logs as evidence. Judge Rivera reviewed them silently, her expression growing increasingly stern. Miss Skelter, these messages appear to show planning for criminal activities. Yes, Your Honor. We forwarded copies to the prosecutor's office. Patricia Hawkins cross-examined Webb aggressively, but the evidence was too thorough, too carefully documented. Every angle she tried had already been anticipated and defended. Naomi's next witness was Diana Kroll, Sebastian's now ex-wife. Diana took the stand with quiet dignity, her pain evident but controlled. She'd lost weight since the divorce proceedings began, and her voice carried the weariness of someone who'd seen her life destroyed by other people's selfishness. Mrs. Kroll, Naomi said gently, how did you learn about your husband's affair? I received an anonymous email with photographs and hotel receipts. The evidence was comprehensive. Did the anonymous sender identify themselves? Not initially, but a subsequent message included a note saying the information came from someone who believed spouses deserved to know the truth. Naomi introduced the photographs as evidence. They showed Sebastian and Tara in clearly compromising situations, professionally shot with legal timestamps. Mrs. Kroll, did your husband use marital assets to finance his affair? Diana's voice strengthened. Sebastian spent $47,000 of our children's college fund on hotel suites and gifts for Mrs. Whitlow, money we'd saved for 15 years. The number hit the courtroom like a physical blow. $47,000, enough for a luxury car, a year of private school tuition, a down payment on a house. How has this affected your family? My children don't understand why Daddy doesn't live with us anymore. I've had to take a job for the first time in 12 years because Sebastian's termination eliminated our health insurance and primary income. Diana's testimony was devastating in its simplicity. Here was an innocent sufferer, a devoted wife and mother, destroyed by the defendant's selfishness and cruelty. Patricia Hawkins barely attempted a cross-examination. What could she ask? Whether Diana was sure her husband had committed infidelity, whether $47,000 was really that much money? Naomi's final witness was Alec himself. He took the stand with the same calm confidence he'd displayed throughout the proceedings. The gallery fell silent as he was sworn in. Mr. Whitlow, Naomi began, please tell the court about your marriage to the defendant. Alec's voice was steady, professional. I married Tara 5 years ago, believing we shared common values: loyalty, honesty, partnership. I supported her career ambitions, paid off her student debts, and provided financial stability while she pursued professional goals. When did you first suspect infidelity? 8 months ago, I found hotel receipts in her purse. When I asked about them, she claimed they were work-related client meetings. What did you do? I trusted her initially, but when the meetings continued and became secretive, I hired Mr. A Webb to investigate. Naomi introduced financial records showing the systematic depletion of their joint accounts. Mr. Whitlow, did you authorize these expenditures? No. Tara was using our credit cards to finance personal activities without my knowledge. She spent $18,000 on clothes, jewelry, and restaurant meals that she claimed were business expenses. Did you discover evidence that your wife was planning to leave you? Alex's expression hardened slightly. Yes. The group chat messages revealed detailed plans to defraud me, take ownership of our house, and potentially file false domestic misuse allegations to gain advantage in divorce proceedings. Naomi played the most damaging audio clip from the hotel recordings. Tara's voice filled the courtroom. I don't care if Alec dies in a car accident tomorrow. I'll get sympathy, I'll own everything, and I can be with you without all this sneaking around. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Several jurors, this was a bench trial, but court observers, visibly recoiled. Mr. Whitlow, how did you feel hearing your wife express these sentiments? For the first time, Alec's composure cracked slightly. I felt like I'd been married to a stranger, someone who viewed our relationship as a business transaction to be optimized for her benefit. Patricia Hawkins attempted to cross-examine, focusing on Alec's surveillance methods and emotional state. But Alec had been testifying in corporate disputes for years. He answered every question with calm precision, never losing his temper or appearing vindictive. Mr. Whitlow, Hawkins asked, isn't it true that you orchestrated this entire situation to publicly humiliate my client? Ms. Hawkins, I documented my wife's fraudulent and criminal behavior. If she feels humiliated, perhaps she should have considered that before committing fraud and infidelity. You systematically destroyed her digital life, her career, and her social relationships. I revealed her digital life, her career choices, and her social relationships. The destruction was entirely self-inflicted. Judge Rivera interrupted. Ms. Hawkins, unless you have evidence that Mr. Whitlow fabricated any of this documentation, I suggest you move on. After 3 days of testimony, Judge Rivera delivered her verdict. This court finds overwhelming evidence of infidelity, fraud, and conspiracy to defraud. Mrs. Whitlow engaged in a systematic pattern of deception designed to financially advantage herself while emotionally and financially damaging her husband. She continued, the defendant forfeits any claim to spousal support. All marital assets revert to the plaintiff. Mrs. Whitlow is ordered to pay restitution for fraudulent expenditures totaling $65,000. Additionally, this court is forwarding evidence of potential criminal conspiracy to the prosecutor's office for review. Tara collapsed into her chair, sobbing audibly. Mr. Whitlow, Judge Rivera said, while this court sympathizes with your situation, your methods of gathering evidence bordered on entrapment. However, given the systematic nature of the fraud perpetrated against you, your actions were legally justified. As the court adjourned, Alex stood and straightened his tie. He looked at Tara, still crying, at the defendant's table, without emotion. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded him. Mr. Whitlow, do you feel vindicated? I feel like justice was served. Actions have consequences. What's next for you? Alex smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him in months. I'm going fishing. I hear the salmon are running early this year. As he walked away, leaving behind the wreckage of his marriage and the complete destruction of everyone who'd tried to destroy him, Alec Whitlow looked like a man who'd finally found peace. Behind him in the courthouse, 5 women faced criminal investigations, career destruction, and the knowledge that they'd underestimated the wrong man. The war was over. Alec had won so completely that his enemies couldn't even comprehend the scope of their defeat. 6 months later, Alec Whitlow stood on the deck of his new cabin overlooking Puget Sound, watching the sunrise paint the water in shades of gold and crimson. The cabin was modest, a far cry from the Bellevue mansion he'd shared with Tara, but it was entirely his. No memories of betrayal, No echoes of false promises, no reminders of the life he'd built with someone who'd never deserved it. His phone buzzed with a text from Naomi Skelter. Thought you'd want to know. Tara pled guilty to conspiracy to commit fraud. 6 months in minimum security, 3 years probation, full restitution. Sebastian got 18 months for embezzlement. The others received suspended sentences and community service. Alec deleted the message without responding. He'd stopped caring about their consequences the moment Judge Rivera delivered her verdict. The criminal prosecutions were just administrative cleanup, dots and crosses on a case that had been closed the night he walked out of that restaurant. His laptop sat open on the deck table, displaying financial reports from his consulting firm. Business had never been better. Word had spread through Seattle's professional community about the man who'd dismantled a conspiracy with surgical precision. Corporate clients were lining up to hire someone who understood the art of strategic destruction. Another text, this one from his brother David. Saw the news about the sentencing. How are you holding up? This one, he answered. Good. Really good. Thanks for asking. And he was good. For the first time in years, Alec felt like himself again. Not the devoted husband playing a role he'd never asked for. Not the reliable provider being taken for granted, but the strategist who'd built his reputation on understanding how systems worked and how to dismantle them when necessary. His phone rang. An unknown number. Mr. Whitlow, this is Jennifer Martinez from Channel 7 News. We're doing a follow-up story on the Whitlow case and wondered if you'd like to comment on the sentencing. No comment, he said pleasantly. But Miss Martinez? If you're looking for a story, you might want to investigate how many other wine coven groups are operating in Seattle. I understand there are several social circles where wealthy women coordinate to defraud their husbands. He could hear her typing notes furiously. Do you have specific information about other cases? I have information about patterns of behavior. The rest is investigative journalism. After hanging up, Alec returned to his laptop. His email contained dozens of messages from potential clients, speaking requests, and interview offers. The one that caught his attention came from a familiar address, Patricia Hawkins and Associates. The subject line read, Confidential Legal Consultation Request. He opened it. Mr. Whitlow, I represent a client who believes her husband is monitoring her communications and financial activities. She's concerned about her privacy and legal rights. Given your recent experience with surveillance and evidence gathering, she wondered if you might provide consultation on protective measures. Confidential rates negotiable. Patricia Hawkins, ESQ. Alex smiled and typed his response. Miss Hawkins, I don't provide advice on evading legitimate spousal investigations. However, I do offer consultation on identifying fraudulent behavior in relationships. My rate is $500 per hour, minimum 10 hours. If your client is innocent, she has nothing to hide. If she's guilty, she needs a criminal attorney, not a consultant. Professional regards, A. Whitlow. He sent the email and closed his laptop. The irony was perfect. Tara's own attorney was now trying to hire the man who'd destroyed her client. His phone buzzed with one final message, this one from an address he didn't recognize. I deserved what happened to me. I'm sorry. I hope you find happiness. T. Alec read the message twice, then deleted it. Tara's apology came 6 months too late and several felony convictions too few. Sorry was something you said when you accidentally bumped into someone at the grocery store, not when you systematically planned to destroy their life for entertainment. He stood by the railing, breathing in the salt air as a fishing boat cut through the dark water below. Alec had learned one thing from the wreckage of his marriage. Loyalty is rare, trust must be earned, and revenge, done right, works best when it's fast, thorough, and legally airtight.